While my cheating wife dined with her new man, I had her presented with our divorce papers. Her laughter sliced through the diner's hum, sharp and flirty, the kind that once made my heart race. But tonight, crouched in the shadows of a corner booth, at Bellagio's, bourbon burning my throat, I saw it for what it was. A performance. Sarah, my wife, was radiant in her blue dress, leaning toward a man in a grey suit, who sipped wine with the arrogance of someone who thought he'd won her. Did she know I was watching? Could she feel the weight of the envelope in my pocket, its crisp edges hiding the words that would unravel her world? Divorce. The word pulsed in my mind like a heartbeat. Table 12, our table, where I proposed 5 years ago, now mocked me as she touched his hand, shameless under the soft lights. What had brought me here, spying like a stranger in my own life? Was it the photo I'd found, her legs tangled with his in a motel bed, or the lies that piled up like unpaid bills? I gripped the envelope tighter. One move, one moment, and everything would change. Would she see me when the letter hit her table? Would she know her game was over? She was laughing. That silly, flirty, head-tilted laugh I once found endearing. But now, watching her from across the diner, tucked behind a shadowy booth, half my bourbon drained, I saw it wasn't endearing. It was practiced, staged, something she used on whoever caught her fancy this week. Tonight, that man sat opposite, her in a grey-tailored suit, casually sipping wine like he owned her. Maybe he did. I held the envelope. Crisp paper, sharp edges, inside the document that would alter both our lives. No more faking. No more posing for pictures, acting joyful. No more lies from Sarah. No more returning to her hollow kisses and flimsy excuses. No more of her murmuring, "I love you," while her phone hummed face down on the counter. I saw her graze the guy's hand. Brazen, right here in public. No remorse. I stared like a man watching his own movie's end, knowing the credits loomed, yet clinging to some impossible twist. They were at our spot. That stung deeper than I expected. Table 12 at Bellagio's. The place we marked our 5th anniversary. The place I proposed. Now she's here with him, giggling, sipping, swirling. Her wine like a villain in some cheap soap opera. I didn't flinch when the server passed. "Excuse me," I said, handing her the envelope. "Could you deliver this to the woman in the blue dress?" Table 12. She took it without a glance, just like Sarah treated our marriage. Carelessly, like a task. I didn't stop her, just leaned back and watched. That moment felt like slow motion. Sarah saw the letter arrive. Her smile froze. Her fingers shook as she opened it, likely expecting some lovesick note from a secret suitor. Then she read the first 3 words. Petition for divorce. Her world shattered. Her date leaned in, puzzled. She said something. I couldn't hear, but her stiffened shoulders, her eyes darting like a cornered deer, she sensed I was near. She could feel me. I stood slowly. She saw me then. Our eyes locked and I smiled. The same smile she flashed 2 months ago when she claimed she was working late at the firm, while her phone, still linked to our cloud, uploaded a photo to the shared folder by mistake. Her legs entwined with his in a motel bed. Dim lights, cheap, wine. Him gripping her neck like she was his. That's the night I stopped being a husband. Tonight, I became something else. Sarah stood, panic flooding her face. "Michael," she hissed, keeping her voice low. The lover turned to me, cocky, smug, like I was a footnote in their romance. "Enjoy your evening," I said, nodding at them. "You're covering the drinks. Call it a celebration." I walked out before the fallout, let them burn behind me. Outside, the air felt different, cold, crisp, alive. I lit a cigarette. A habit I quit when I met her. Funny how betrayal revives things you buried for love. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "What the hell are you doing?" I didn't reply. She could yell, weep, blame, spin, it however she wanted. But the divorce was real. and for the first time in years, so was my peace. My phone kept buzzing all night. Sarah called, texted, left voicemails that swung from raging to sobbing to eerie silence. I didn't answer once, not because I didn't want to, but because I knew if I heard her voice, even now, a part of me might still want to trust her. And that part had to die tonight. I drove aimlessly, city lights streaking across the windshield like a faded memory. I ended up at the lake, the one we visited when we first dated. I remembered her in a jacket, barefoot on the shore, pretending to shiver just so I'd hold her close. I used to think those moments were genuine, that she was genuine. Now I wondered how many were just rehearsals for the role she wanted me to buy into. By the time I got home, it was nearly midnight. The house was dark, but I knew she'd show up, and she did. At 12:41 a.m., the front door slammed. I stayed on the couch. I wanted her to find me calm, unshaken. Let her rage, let her perform. "You're out of your fucking mind," she snapped, boots clicking hard on the hardwood. A public stunt. A divorce letter at dinner. Are you serious? I didn't look at her. You and your boyfriend seem to be enjoying yourselves. Don't do this, Michael. I'm not doing anything, just giving you what you clearly wanted. She scoffed, tossing her bag on the floor. You don't even know what's happening. Oh, I know. Enough. I've got the photos, the timestamps, the motel receipts, the late nights that weren't at work. You think I'm stupid? Her eyes darted, her jaw tightened. It's not what you think. Don't insult me. It was a mistake. How many times? 10, 20. Every Wednesday and some Mondays. That's a lot of mistakes, Sarah. Silence. She finally sat, like she'd run out of steam, but her face shifted. Cold, calculating. You're not innocent either, Michael. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Do enlighten me. You were never enough. Always working, always exhausted. You stopped looking at me like I mattered. There it was. The gaslighting, the flip, the classic narcissist twist. So, you decided to let someone else crawl into our bed. That's your solution. She didn't flinch. At least he made me feel alive. That one hurt. I stood, looked down at her like she was a stranger. You should have told me you wanted out. I'd have respected the honesty. But you wouldn't have begged, she said flatly. That sentence told me everything about the woman I married. You're sick, I muttered. She laughed. Actually laughed. You think you're the victim here? You think you're some hero now, handing out divorce papers like it's a movie scene? You're pathetic. I might be pathetic, I said, heading for the stairs, but I'm no longer your husband. And that's the best decision I've ever made. She stood quickly. You'll regret this. Nobody will ever love you like I did. I turned. God, I hope not. I went upstairs, left her in the living room like a ghost haunting a place she no longer belonged. I heard her crying later. Maybe it was real. Maybe it wasn't. I didn't care anymore. I had finally stopped caring. And that was the most powerful thing I'd felt in years. The next morning, she was gone. No note, no text, just silence. Her side of the dresser cleared out, like she never lived here, like she never spent 6 years promising me forever. I poured myself coffee, black and bitter, the way I liked it, before I started making it sweeter for her. I sat at the kitchen counter, staring at the empty stool across from me. My phone buzzed. A text from her mom. I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. Talk to Sarah. You two can fix this. Fix this. Sarah didn't stumble into another man's bed. She built a double life, one lie at a time while I was too blind to see it. I didn't reply. If her family wanted to cling to her fantasy, let them live in it. I was done being the sidekick in a story where I was always second to her whims. Spent the day gathering everything she left behind. Scraps of a lie dressed as love. Perfume vials, wedding photos, love notes she once wrote to keep up the act. I boxed them all, not to burn, not to destroy, just to clear my space. I wasn't going to ruin anything. that would mean I still cared. Around noon, I got a text from an unknown number. You humiliated her. You didn't have to do that. No name, but I knew it was her lover. I stared at the screen, rage clawing my throat. I wanted to fire back a novel, remind him I had the receipts, the photos, the power to ruin more than just Sarah's image. But I didn't. I typed one line. Tell her, next time to pick someone smarter. I left it at that. That night, I met my brother Tom at this dive bar we used to frequent in college. I hadn't seen him in ages. Always had excuses. Work. Sarah had plans. Not tonight, man, he said after I spilled everything. I never liked her. But I kept quiet. You seemed happy, and I didn't want to be the jerk who spoke up. I nodded slowly. Maybe I needed to crash hard to see the truth. Better now than 10 years and 2 kids later. He wasn't wrong. It could have been worse. She could have taken more from me. I sent her the divorce letter while she was out with him, I said, sipping my beer. You should have seen her face. Tom laughed hard. Damn. Cold move. I respect it. It wasn't about revenge, I admitted. It was closure. I needed her to know I saw her. Really saw her. He leaned back. Well, she's seen the real you now too, and she can't control it anymore. That hit me. For the first time in years, I wasn't under her thumb, trying to prove my worth or soothe her tantrums. I wasn't afraid she'd withhold love or punish me with distance. I wasn't trying to win her anymore. I was free. The next few days blurred by, but I didn't feel numb. I felt lighter. There was grief, sure, but not for her. For the version of myself I lost in that marriage. The man who kept compromising, shrinking, apologizing for things he didn't do just to keep her calm. That guy was gone, and I was starting to meet the man who replaced him. The official court date came faster than expected. I stood outside the courthouse that morning in a navy suit I hadn't worn since my promotion, back when Sarah still pretended to be proud of me, back when she wasn't too busy working late to celebrate. She showed up 20 minutes late, wearing a cream blazer like she was playing innocent. Her lawyer stood beside her, stone-faced, focused. She shot me a look of pure venom, like I was the one who betrayed her. No guilt in her eyes, just irritation. When the judge asked if we wanted mediation, I looked at him and said, "No, I've made peace with my decision." Sarah rolled her eyes, muttering to her lawyer. I didn't ask. I didn't care. We signed. We swore. We left. Outside. She finally spoke. "So that's it. You're just throwing away everything we built." I tilted my head. "We didn't build anything. I built. You broke." She didn't flinch, just crossed her arms. "He treats me better than you ever did. I'm sure he does. He hasn't known you long enough to tire of the act." "You're such a—" I cut her off. "Don't try to pick a fight. You don't get to win this one. You lost the second you thought I'd be too weak to walk away." Her mouth stayed open, but no words came. I turned and walked to my car. I could feel her staring, probably convincing herself she still had power over me. But her spell had broken. She was just another stranger with a familiar face. The funny thing is, people started reaching out. Old friends I'd lost touch with. Co-workers who always gave me knowing looks. Even my mum called. She never liked Sarah but stayed quiet out of respect. Sometimes, she told me, it takes a wildfire to clear the deadwood. Maybe now you'll grow something better. That line stuck with me. I started jogging again, hit the gym like I used to, rediscovered my appetite for life, not just food. Slept better, laughed more, even reconnected with people from before Sarah, before the lies, the eggshells, the quiet erosion of my soul. One night, I sat on the deck, bourbon in hand, reflecting on everything. Not with sadness, but clarity. I realized I'd been married to a fantasy, not a woman. A performance that demanded constant applause but gave no encore. When I stopped clapping, she found a new audience. But me? I didn't need a role anymore. I just had to live. And God, it felt good. A few weeks after the divorce, a package arrived. No sender, just a grey box with my name in Sarah's handwriting. I almost tossed it, but curiosity won. Inside was a gold watch I gave her on our 3rd anniversary. She used to wear it daily, swore it was her favourite gift. Now it sat in the box like trash. No note, no explanation. Just a clear message. I don't need anything that reminds me of you. I laughed aloud. Not bitterness, relief. I took the watch, walked to the pawn shop and sold it without a second thought. Used the cash for new hiking boots and booked a weekend in the Rockies. First solo trip in years. First time I felt I was doing something just for me. The cabin was cozy, quiet, nestled among pines that whispered secrets in the breeze. I brought a notebook, something I hadn't done since college, and wrote. Not poetry, not stories, just truth. Raw, unfiltered, searing honesty. I wrote about the first time I noticed Sarah pulling away, the client dinners she never invited me to, the cold good nights, the odd passcodes on her phone, the fake tears when I questioned anything. I wrote about the guilt she sowed in me, convincing me I was paranoid, controlling, insecure, when I was just watching my marriage decay from within. One line stood out. She didn't destroy me. She revealed me. That night, I slept with the windows open and dreamed of nothing. No regrets, no nightmares, just silence. Back home, everything felt smaller, simpler. I started changing things, repainting the study, donating her furniture, even replacing the mattress. It wasn't just about erasing her. It was about reclaiming my space. Then one afternoon, I ran into her. Supermarket, of all places. She was with him, same guy, same smug grin. She saw me first and froze. He didn't recognize me until she whispered my name. I nodded at them and kept walking. She called. Out, Michael, wait, I didn't stop. She jogged after me, alone. He didn't follow. Can we talk? She asked. I stared at her. She looked weary, hollow. Why? I didn't think you'd move on so fast. That sentence. That damn sentence. You left me long before I left you, I said. I'm just catching up. Her face twisted. He doesn't make me feel the way you did. I shrugged. Then I guess you made a mistake. No, I cut her off. Calm as ever. You don't get to rewrite this. You lied. You cheated. You gaslit. I gave you every chance. You burned them all. Go. Live with your choice. She didn't cry, didn't argue, just stood there, biting her lip, pretending I might soften. I didn't. I left the store, head high, soul clean, with my dinner for one. And it tasted like freedom. That night, I got a text from a number I hadn't seen in years. Heard about. Everything. Can't believe she did that. Want to catch up? It was Lisa, my college ex, the one who got away. Or maybe the one I let go for the wrong reasons. We hadn't spoken in a decade. She was married, last I heard. Maybe divorced now. Who knows? I didn't reply right away, not because I wasn't interested, but because for the first time in years, I wasn't looking for someone to fill a void. I was learning to stand alone. The next few days were strange. Peaceful, but strange. My phone stayed quiet. No more calls from Sarah. No surprise texts. No drama. Her absence felt less like a wound and more like healing. Then the unexpected happened. A certified letter arrived, not from Sarah, but her lover, or ex-lover now. Apparently she lied to him too, claimed I mistreated her emotionally, that she'd been trying to escape for years but was scared. He learned it was all a lie when he saw her old emails. She called him a backup plan in case Michael doesn't cave. He apologized in one paragraph, said if he'd known, he'd never have touched her. I didn't respond. Why would I? That mess was theirs now. Later that week, I ran into Sarah's sister, Kate, at the gas station. She approached cautiously. Michael, I know you probably don't want to hear from our family, she began. I didn't interrupt. I just want you to know I told her she was ruining the only good man she ever had. I told her the night you sent that letter to the diner, she deserved it. I looked at her and saw something Sarah never had. Regret, sincerity, truth. She doesn't even cry about you, Kate added. She cries because she thought you'd beg her to come back. That was all I needed to hear. I nodded. Thanks for telling me. When I drove off, something big shifted inside me. I didn't just survive her, I outgrew her. She was a chapter I'd closed. Painful, yes, but not my whole story. And every new page was mine to write. A month later, I took a spontaneous trip to Austin. I needed music, color, people who didn't know my name. I wandered through blues bars, food trucks, sat beside strangers, and let the guitars drown out every echo of her voice in my head. One night. I ended up at a rooftop lounge. A girl was singing. Nothing polished, just a voice and a soul. She had wavy black hair, a worn guitar, and eyes that held stories deeper than mine. When she sang, it wasn't perfect. It was real, unapologetically, raw. And it hit me harder than any breakup ever did. Her name was Emma. We talked for hours about everything but love. No old wounds, no forced smiles, just two people letting the night be what it was. She didn't ask why I was there. I didn't ask if she lived here. It didn't matter. For once, I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I wasn't trying to be what someone needed. When I walked her to her car, she turned and said, "You look like someone who just broke out of a prison." I smirked. Funny, that's exactly how I feel. "I hope you never step back inside one," she said, and drove off. I never saw her again, but that night stuck with me. Not because I fell in love, but because I finally knew what freedom tasted like. Back home, I donated the last of Sarah's things, the dusty box in the shed, the scarf she left, the perfume vial still hiding in the bathroom cabinet. Gone. I changed my number, didn't share it with anyone who didn't matter. One morning, I passed our old favorite cafe and saw her car parked outside. I didn't stop, didn't look. Just smiled to myself, rolled down the window, and let the breeze carry away every piece of the man who used to wait for her. That version of me, the one who begged for her attention, who thought loyalty meant enduring betrayal. He died the moment I handed that divorce letter to the server, and the man I became learned to breathe again. Not to survive her, but to live without her. Months passed. The silence that once felt deafening was now soothing. My home didn't feel empty anymore. It felt mine. My routine wasn't haunted by her scent or footsteps. I stopped being a stranger to myself and started feeling like a friend I should have welcomed years ago. One afternoon at a farmer's market downtown, I saw a couple, young, happy, playful. The way she looked at him reminded me of how Sarah used to look at me when we first met. Before the rot set in, before the lies carved her mask down to the bone. I didn't feel bitter watching them. I didn't envy them either. I just hoped they'd never end up where we did. Back home, I opened my laptop, logged into an old folder labeled Us. I hovered over it for a moment. Hundreds of photos, videos, texts I'd once saved like treasures, now they felt like relics of a war I barely survived. Delete. No hesitation. Gone in seconds, like the love we pretended to have. Later that night, I sat on the back porch with a glass of scotch and a quiet that didn't demand answers. And I started writing, not in a notebook this time, not therapy, just words I needed to release. I wrote the truth. That I loved her, that I gave her everything, that I wanted it to work more than I wanted to breathe some days. But I also wrote that she destroyed that love with every lie, every eye roll, every half-hearted kiss she gave, me after giving her whole body to someone else. And then I wrote what I learned. Never beg to be chosen. Never accept crumbs from someone who feasts behind your back. And never let someone mistake your loyalty for weakness. I folded that page, placed it in the drawer where I keep things that remind me who I am, not who I was with her, but who I became without her. This story started with a dinner. It ended with a letter. And in between was a man who lost everything only to find himself again. She can keep her lies, her lover, her hollow victories. I have something better. In the quiet aftermath of a shattered marriage, I found a truth sharper than betrayal. Love, when built on lies, is a house of cards waiting for the wind. Sarah's deception didn't just break my heart, it broke the illusion I'd clung to, a fantasy of forever that blinded me to her half-truths and hidden nights. As I stood on the ashes of our 6 years, I learned that loyalty is not a chain to endure betrayal, but a gift to be given wisely. Never beg for love. It's a currency too precious to be bartered for crumbs. The pain of her infidelity, though searing, was a crucible, forging a man who no longer apologizes for his worth. To anyone walking this path, know this: your value doesn't diminish because someone fails to see it. Let go of those who feast behind your back, for they'll never savor your sacrifice. Reclaim your space, your peace, your story. The scars of betrayal are not marks of shame, but badges of survival. Proof you walked through fire and emerged whole. I rebuilt my life not to erase her, but to honor myself. Every step, whether through Austin's vibrant streets or the Rockies' silent trails, taught me that freedom isn't found in another's arms, but in the courage to stand alone. So, write your own pages, unburdened by those who'd rewrite your truth. The greatest love you'll ever know begins the moment you choose yourself.